I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of room 3 and 6, but sitting in the chair, usually empty, was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me, it was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look, even though I was sure of it. He looked at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please, please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not gonna hurt you. Yes, you are. He sobbed. He was sobbing now. You're gonna hurt me. I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet away from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I soon would be. Why are you... You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying this? Just calm down, alright? Let's try to figure this... And I saw it. David was sitting down wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch embroidered with the number 9. You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me. Please. You're gonna hurt me. My eyes didn't leave the small number off his chest. I knew exactly what it is. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they started getting more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood, covered above the bodies of my parents. But 9 was a number on a person, a living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David? I had to ask. Yes? You're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me. He said, continued sobbing, rocking back and forth. He answered to David. It was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few seconds. It felt like minutes. While he was sobbing in the chair, the room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. There was a knife attached with a tag that read, "To David, from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was to remove the knife from underneath the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an act of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they know my name? Not to mention the fact that I leant on a cold wooden floor. I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was too much to process. The house And the management had been playing with me this whole time. I thought for some reason turned to Peter and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth, I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice, what do you think you're going to do? I lifted the knife off the ground and clenched it in my hand. I'm gonna get out of here. David, still in the chair, though. He was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was gonna laugh or strangle me. Slowly he got up from the chair and stood face to face with me. It was uncanny. He was the same height and he stood in the same way to match mine. I felt the rubber of the hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped tighter. I didn't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. Now, he said clearly, deeper than my own, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't know how to respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I mounted him and looked down, knife post and ready. He looked at me terrified. It was like looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant. Though I was still able to feel it deep in my body, David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something inside of me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch of his chest and ripping down. Blackness fell into the room and I was falling. The darkness was around me like nothing I had never experienced at this point. The room 4 was dark, but this didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling. After a while, I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but it had seemed. And my mind has trouble differentiating difference of what's real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9, and for what seemed like days, the final room, what it was, the end. A NoEnd house had an end. I finally reached it. At the moment of giving up, I knew it was be in between a state of forever accomplishment, but nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all sense. I couldn't even feel myself. I couldn't even hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied, and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. And then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt the ground come up from below me, and I was standing up. For a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and sense, I slowly walked towards the light. As I approached the light, it took form in a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started, the lobby of NoEnd House. I was exactly how I felt when I left, still empty, still still unsatisfied with the childish decor of Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I still was in a state of worry of where I was. After a few moments of normalness, I looked around. The place was trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name handwritten on it. Curiosity, yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage and picked up the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten. Dear David, congratulations, you have made to the end of NoEnd House. Please accept this prize of token of great accomplishments. Forever yours, management. With the letter were $500. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for hours. It seemed like it. I laughed as I walked to my car. I laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door. I laughed as I saw a small 10 etched into the wood.